Marcus stared at the wedding venue contract in his hands, his heart pounding with excitement. After 3 years of dating, he had finally proposed to Alina, and she had said yes. The small coffee shop where they had their first date seemed like a lifetime ago. Now, at 26, he was ready to start the next chapter of his life with the woman he loved more than anything. Elena walked into their shared apartment, her nursing scrubs still on from her double shift at the hospital. Despite being exhausted, her face lit up when she saw the papers scattered across their dining table. "Are we really doing this?" she asked, wrapping her arms around his shoulders from behind. "We're really doing this," Marcus replied, leaning back into her embrace. "I put down the deposit for the Riverside Gardens venue. It's perfect, Elena. The ceremony will be by the lake and the reception hall overlooks the water, just like you dreamed." Elena picked up one of the brochures, her eyes sparkling. "It's beautiful, but Marcus, are you sure we can afford this? I know you've been saving, but this seems expensive." Marcus turned to face her, taking her hands in his. "Remember when I told you about my grandfather's inheritance? He left me $50,000 specifically for my wedding. He always said he wanted to see his grandchildren properly celebrated when they found their life partners. This money has been sitting in a separate account for 5 years, waiting for this moment." "Your grandfather sounds like he was an amazing man," Elena said softly. She had never met Marcus's grandfather, who had passed away when Marcus was in college. But she had heard countless stories about the wise, generous man who had helped raise Marcus when his parents divorced. "He was the best," Marcus agreed. "He always told me that a wedding wasn't just about the party, but about honoring the commitment you're making. He said when I found the right person, I should celebrate properly because marriage is the most important decision you'll ever make." Elena kissed his forehead gently. "Then let's make him proud. Let's plan the wedding of our dreams." Over the next few weeks, Marcus threw himself into wedding planning with an enthusiasm that surprised even Elena. He researched photographers, tasted cakes, and visited florists. Every decision was made with care and consideration for both their preferences and the budget his grandfather had provided. The wedding fund had grown slightly over the years with interest, bringing the total to just over $52,000. Marcus created a detailed spreadsheet, allocating funds for every aspect of their special day. The venue, catering, photography, flowers, Alina's dress, his suit, the rings, and even a small honeymoon to the mountains where they had shared their first romantic getaway. For the first time in months, Marcus felt truly optimistic about the future. His job at the marketing firm was going well. Elena's career as a nurse was flourishing, and they had found a rhythm as a couple that felt natural and supportive. The wedding planning was bringing them closer together, and Marcus couldn't imagine being happier. Little did he know that his perfect world was about to be shattered by a phone call that would change everything. The call came on a Tuesday evening while Marcus was reviewing catering options. His father's name appeared on his phone screen, which was unusual since they typically only spoke on holidays and birthdays. Their relationship had been strained since his parents' messy divorce 10 years earlier. "Dad," Marcus answered, surprised by the late hour of the call. "Marcus, we need to talk." His father's voice was tense, more serious than Marcus had heard in years. "It's about Derek." Derek was Marcus's younger brother, 23 years old and perpetually in some form of trouble. While Marcus had focused on his education and career, Derek had bounced between jobs, relationships, and various get-rich-quick schemes that never seemed to work out. "What's Derek done now?" Marcus asked, already feeling a familiar knot forming in his stomach. Derek's problems had a way of becoming family emergencies that somehow always required Marcus to help fix them. "He's in real trouble, son. He borrowed money from some dangerous people to invest in what he thought was a sure thing. The deal fell through, and now he owes $25,000 to people who don't take no for an answer." Marcus sat down heavily on his couch. "Dad, I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't understand why you're calling me. Derek is an adult. He needs to figure out how to handle his own mistakes." "Marcus, these aren't the kind of people who accept payment plans. Derek is scared, and frankly, so am I. Your mother is beside herself with worry. We've already given him everything we can, but it's not enough." "How much more does he need?" Marcus asked, though he was already dreading the answer. 25,000. "Marcus, I know this is a lot to ask, but you're the only one in the family who has that kind of money available. I know about your grandfather's wedding fund." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Dad, that money is for my wedding. Elena and I have already put down deposits, made commitments. Our wedding is in 4 months. Son, I understand this is difficult, but we're talking about Derek's safety here. Maybe you and Elena could have a smaller wedding, something simpler. Derek's life might be in danger." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. This is exactly the kind of situation Derek always creates. He makes reckless decisions and then expects everyone else to bail him out. "I'm not giving him my wedding money." "Marcus, I'm not asking you to give it to him. I'm telling you that you need to help your brother. Family comes first, and Derek is family." The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, with his father alternating between pleading and demanding. Marcus remained firm in his refusal, but the call left him shaken and angry. When Alina came home from work, she found him packing their living room. "What's wrong?" she asked immediately, recognizing the stress in his posture. Marcus explained the situation, watching Alina's expression change from concern to disbelief to anger. "They want you to give up our wedding money to bail Derek out of another mess?" she asked incredulously. "That's exactly what they want," Marcus confirmed. "And when I refused, my dad basically said I was being selfish and that I don't care about family." Alina sat beside him, taking his hand. "Marcus, you know I would support whatever decision you make, but this is our future they're asking you to sacrifice for Derek's mistakes." Marcus looked into Alina's eyes, seeing the hurt and disappointment she was trying to hide. "I'm not giving them the money, Alina. Derek needs to learn that actions have consequences. We've been planning this wedding for months, and this money was specifically left to me for this purpose." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his grandfather's words about family and commitment. His grandfather had loved Derek too, but he had also believed in personal responsibility. Marcus felt confident that his grandfather would have supported his decision to protect the wedding fund. Unfortunately, his family was just getting started with their pressure campaign, and Marcus had no idea how far they would be willing to go to get what they wanted. The next morning, Marcus woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. His phone had been buzzing all night, but he had turned it to silent after the first few calls. Now, looking at the notifications, he felt a chill run down his spine. The messages were from his father, his mother, Derek, and even his Aunt Susan, whom he hadn't spoken to in over a year. All of them contained variations of the same theme. Marcus was being selfish, heartless, and a terrible brother. Some messages were pleading, others were angry, and a few were downright manipulative. His mother's message was particularly hurtful. "I never thought I raised a son who would watch his brother suffer when he had the power to help. Your grandfather would be ashamed of you." Alina read the messages over his shoulder, her face growing more upset with each one. "This is emotional manipulation, Marcus. They're trying to make you feel guilty for protecting your own future." Marcus's hands were shaking as he scrolled through the messages. "Look at this one from Derek. Thanks for basically signing my death warrant, bro. Hope your fancy wedding is worth your brother's life." "That's disgusting," Alina said firmly. "Derek created this situation, and now he's trying to make you feel responsible for the consequences. This is exactly the kind of emotional blackmail that has enabled his behavior for years." Marcus knew Alina was right, but the pressure from his family was overwhelming. He had always been the responsible one, the problem solver, the person everyone turned to when things went wrong. But this time, they were asking him to sacrifice something that wasn't just his own happiness, but Alina's too. Throughout the day, the calls and messages continued. His father left a voicemail saying they needed to meet in person to discuss the situation. His mother called Elena directly at the hospital, trying to convince her to talk Marcus into helping Derek. "Your mother-in-law called me at work," Elena told him that evening. "She said I should convince you to do the right thing because Derek's life is more important than one day of celebration." Marcus felt his anger boiling over. "She called you at the hospital while you were working. That's completely inappropriate." She was crying, Marcus. She kept saying that Derek is just a kid who made a mistake, and that you're the only one who can save him. Derek is 23 years old. He's not a kid, and this isn't his first mistake. Remember when he crashed Dad's car while driving drunk? Or when he stole money from Mom's purse to buy drugs? Or when he got fired from 3 jobs in 6 months because he couldn't be bothered to show up on time? Elena nodded. "I remember. And I remember how your family always made excuses for him while expecting you to be perfect." Marcus appreciated Elena's support, but he could see the stress this situation was putting on her too. They had been so happy just a few days ago, excitedly planning their future together. Now their joy was being overshadowed by his family's crisis and their unreasonable demands. That evening, Marcus made a decision. He would meet with his father in person, explain his position one final time, and make it clear that the conversation was over. He hoped that a face-to-face discussion might help his father understand his perspective and put an end to the pressure campaign. He had no idea that this meeting would result in a confrontation that would forever change his relationship with his family. Marcus agreed to meet his father at a neutral location, a small diner halfway between their homes. He arrived early, hopping to collect his thoughts before what he knew would be a difficult conversation. His father walked in 15 minutes later, looking haggard and older than Marcus remembered. "Thank you for coming," his father said, sliding into the booth across from Marcus. "I know this isn't easy for any of us." "Dad, before we start, I need you to understand something. I'm not changing my mind about the wedding money. That money was left to me by Grandpa specifically for my wedding, and that's exactly what I'm going to use it for." His father's jaw tightened. "Marcus, I raised you better than this. I taught you that family comes first, that we take care of each other when times get tough. You also taught me to be responsible for my own actions and to think before making decisions," Marcus replied. "Derek has never learned those lessons because everyone always bails him out." "This is different, Marcus. Derek's life is literally in danger. These people he owes money to aren't going to wait around for him to figure out a payment plan." Marcus leaned forward. Then maybe Derek should have thought about that before he borrowed money from dangerous people to fund another one of his schemes. This is the natural consequence of his choices. Natural consequence. His father's voice rose. We're talking about your brother potentially being hurt or killed, and you're worried about natural consequences. I'm worried about enabling destructive behavior, Marcus shot back. Every time Derek gets into trouble, someone in the family rescues him. He's never had to face the real consequences of his actions, which is exactly why he keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. The conversation continued in circles for over an hour, with his father alternating between emotional appeals and barely veiled threats. At one point, he suggested that Marcus could take out a loan against his future earnings to help Derek, keeping the wedding fund intact. "Dad, I'm not going into debt to fix Derek's mistakes. Elena and I are starting our life together, and we're not beginning our marriage with financial problems caused by Derek's poor decisions." Finally, his father leaned back in his seat, his expression turning cold. "Fine, Marcus. I can see that you've made up your mind, but I want you to know that your mother and I are deeply disappointed in you. And if something happens to Derek because you refuse to help, that's something you'll have to live with for the rest of your life." "I can live with setting healthy boundaries," Marcus replied, standing up from the table. "What I couldn't live with is starting my marriage by betraying my fiancée and dishonoring my grandfather's memory." As Marcus walked toward the door, his father called out one last time, "Don't come to us expecting support when you realize what a mistake you've made." Driving home, Marcus felt emotionally drained but resolute. He had said what needed to be said, and hopefully, his family would eventually accept his decision and find another way to help Derek. He was looking forward to telling Elena about the conversation and finally putting this drama behind them so they could focus on their wedding planning. Unfortunately, Derek's situation was about to take a turn that would force Marcus's hand in ways he never could have anticipated. 2 weeks passed with blessed silence from Marcus's family. He and Elena threw themselves back into wedding planning, trying to recapture the joy and excitement they had felt before Derek's crisis had invaded their lives. They finalized the menu, chose their wedding flowers, and Elena found the perfect dress at a boutique downtown. Marcus was at work, reviewing a client presentation when his phone rang. His mother's name appeared on the screen, and against his better judgment, he answered. "Marcus, thank God," his mother sobbed into the phone. "Something terrible has happened. Derek is in the hospital." Marcus's blood ran cold. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He was attacked last night. Someone broke into his apartment and beat him up. He has a concussion, broken ribs, and his arm is broken. The doctors say he's lucky to be alive." Marcus closed his office door and sat down heavily in his chair. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Is he going to be okay?" "The doctors think he'll recover, but Marcus, this is just the beginning. The people he owes money to sent him a message. They want their money in 1 week, or next time they won't be so gentle. Marcus felt the familiar weight of his family's expectations settling on his shoulders. Mom, this is horrible, and I'm sorry Derek is hurt, but this doesn't change anything. I still can't give him my wedding money. Marcus, they nearly killed him. How can you be so heartless? Your brother is lying in a hospital bed because he can't pay what he owes, and you're sitting on $50,000 that could save his life. That money is for my wedding, Mom. It's not my responsibility to fix Derek's mistakes, even when those mistakes have serious consequences. His mother's voice turned sharp. Fine, Marcus. You want to let your brother die for a party. That's your choice. But don't expect your father and me to celebrate your wedding when it's built on Derek's suffering. It's not built on Derek's suffering, Marcus said firmly. It's built on years of saving, planning, and dreaming about my future with Alina. Derek's situation is tragic, but it's not my fault, and it's not my responsibility to fix. After hanging up, Marcus sat in his office for a long time, staring out the window. He felt terrible about Derek's injuries, but he also felt angry that his family was still trying to manipulate him into giving up his wedding money. Derek's beating was a horrible consequence of his poor choices, but it didn't make those choices Marcus's responsibility. That evening, Marcus told Alina about the phone call. She held him while he processed the guilt and anger he was feeling. I feel awful that Derek got hurt, he said. But I also feel angry that even now, after he's been beaten up, my family is still trying to guilt me into bailing him out. Your feelings are completely valid, Alina assured him. It's possible to feel sorry for Derek while still maintaining healthy boundaries. You didn't cause this situation, and you're not responsible for fixing it. Over the next few days, Marcus received updates on Derek's condition from various family members. Derek was recovering physically, but the psychological impact of the attack was severe. He was scared, paranoid, and begging anyone who would listen to help him come up with the money he owed. Marcus's resolve was tested when Derek called him directly from the hospital. "Marcus, please," Derek's voice was weak and frightened. "I know I've screwed up before, but this time is different. These people are going to kill me if I don't pay them. I'm your brother. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "Derek, I love you and I'm sorry you're hurt," Marcus said carefully. "But loving you doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my future to fix your mistakes. There have to be other options. Can't you go to the police?" "The police can't protect me from these people. And even if they could, I'd still owe the money. Marcus, I'm begging you. I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll get a job. I'll work every day for the rest of my life to pay you back." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of Derek's desperation. "Derek, you've made that promise before. You promised to pay Dad back for the car repairs. You promised to pay Mom back for the lawyer fees. You've never followed through. This time is different because my life depends on it. Your life has depended on getting your act together for years, Derek. This is just the first time the consequences have been this immediate and visible. Derek hung up on him, but not before calling him a selfish bastard who cared more about a party than his own brother's life. Marcus knew that his family's pressure was about to intensify, but he had no idea that they were planning an intervention that would push him to his breaking point. The intervention was scheduled for the following Sunday, though Marcus didn't know that's what it was when his mother called and invited him and Alina to a family dinner. "We haven't all been together in months," she said. "I thought it would be nice to have a family meal, especially with everything that's been going on." Marcus was hesitant, but Alina encouraged him to go. Maybe spending time together without the pressure of Derek's crisis will help everyone remember what family really means, she suggested. They arrived at his parents' house to find not just his immediate family, but also his Aunt Susan, his Uncle Robert, and his cousin Jennifer. Derek was there too, still showing visible signs of his beating. His left arm was in a cast, and he had bruises on his face that were just beginning to fade. "This is nice," Marcus said, though he felt immediately suspicious about why so many family members had suddenly decided to gather. Dinner started normally enough, with general conversation about work, the weather, and Alina's job at the hospital. But as soon as the main course was served, the atmosphere shifted. "Marcus," his Aunt Susan began, "we're all here because we're worried about Derek, and we're worried about you too." Marcus set down his fork, realizing he had walked into a trap. "What do you mean?" "We mean that Derek's life is in danger, and you have the power to save him, but you're choosing not to," his Uncle Robert added. "That's not the Marcus we know and love." Alina reached for Marcus's hand under the table. "I think there might be some misunderstanding about the situation," she said diplomatically. "No misunderstanding," his cousin Jennifer chimed in. "Marcus has $50,000 sitting in a bank account, and Derek needs $25,000 to stay alive. The math is pretty simple." Marcus looked around the table at the faces of his family members, all of them staring at him with expressions ranging from disappointment to anger. "This is an ambush," he said quietly. "This is an intervention," his father corrected. "We're trying to help you see that you're making a mistake that you'll regret for the rest of your life." "The only mistake I'm making is sitting here listening to this." Marcus stood up from the table. "Alina, we're leaving." "Sit down, Marcus," his mother said sharply. "We're not finished." "Yes, we are," Marcus replied. "I've already explained my position multiple times. The money in that account was left to me by Grandpa specifically for my wedding. It's not a general emergency fund for Derek's mistakes. Derek spoke up for the first time since they had arrived. Marcus, look at me. Look at what they did to me. He gestured to his bruised face and broken arm. This is what happens when you don't pay these people. Next time they won't stop at a beating. Marcus felt his resolve wavering as he looked at his younger brother's injuries. Derek, I'm sorry this happened to you. I really am. But this doesn't change the fundamental issue. You borrowed money from dangerous people to fund a risky investment without considering the consequences. So I deserve to die because I made a mistake. Derek's voice cracked. No, you don't deserve to die. But you do deserve to face the consequences of your choices without expecting other people to sacrifice their futures to bail you out. The room erupted in angry voices, with multiple family members talking over each other. Marcus's mother accused him of being selfish and heartless. His father questioned how he had raised such an ungrateful son. His aunt and uncle reminded him of all the times the family had helped him over the years. Through it all, Elena sat quietly beside Marcus, her hand still holding his. Finally, she spoke up. With all due respect, this isn't fair to Marcus. You're all ganging up on him and trying to manipulate him into making a decision that will affect both of our futures. His mother turned her anger toward Elena. This is about family, Elena. Maybe you don't understand because you don't have siblings, but family comes first. Elena's cheeks flushed, but she kept her voice steady. I understand family, Mrs. Thompson, but I also understand that enabling destructive behavior isn't helping anyone in the long run. The argument continued for another 30 minutes, with voices getting louder and accusations becoming more personal. Marcus felt like he was being attacked from all sides, and his anger was building to a dangerous level. Finally, he'd had enough. I'm done with this conversation. Elena and I are leaving, and I don't want to hear another word about Derek's money problems. As he moved toward the door, his father stood up and grabbed his arm. You're not leaving until we settle this. Marcus jerked his arm away. Don't touch me, Dad. Then don't walk away from your family when we need you. I'm not walking away from my family. I'm walking away from emotional blackmail and manipulation. That's when his father's control finally snapped, and he did something that would change their relationship forever. Marcus's father stepped closer, his face red with anger. You ungrateful, selfish bastard. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. By letting your brother die while you throw a fancy party. I'm not letting anyone die, Marcus replied, his own voice rising. I'm refusing to enable Derek's self-destructive behavior, and I'm protecting the future that Elena and I have worked to build together. Your future, His father sneered. What about Derek's future? What about the fact that he might not have one if you don't help him? Derek's future is Derek's responsibility, just like mine is mine. The words seemed to push his father over the edge. How dare you turn your back on family like this? How dare you dishonor your grandfather's memory by being so selfish? I'm honoring Grandpa's memory by using his gift exactly as he intended, Marcus shot back. He wanted me to have a beautiful wedding when I found the right person. He would never have wanted me to give that money to Derek to pay off gambling debts to criminals. Don't you dare tell me what your grandfather would have wanted, his father snarled. He believed in family loyalty, something you apparently never learned. Elena stood up beside Marcus, her hand on his arm. Maybe we should just go, she said quietly. This isn't accomplishing anything. Marcus's father turned his anger toward Elena. This is your fault, isn't it? You're the one putting these selfish ideas in his head. Before he met you, Marcus cared about his family. Leave Elena out of this, Marcus said dangerously. She has nothing to do with my decision. She has everything to do with it. She's turned you against your own family. Marcus stepped protectively in front of Elena. Elena has been nothing but supportive and understanding. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I won't let you blame her for my decision to set healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries, his father laughed bitterly. Is that what you call abandoning your brother when he needs you most? I call it refusing to be manipulated and guilt-tripped into making decisions that aren't in my best interests. The room fell silent for a moment, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Derek spoke up, his voice weak and desperate. Marcus, please, I'm begging you. These people are going to kill me. Marcus looked at his younger brother, seeing the fear in his eyes, the genuine terror of someone who had gotten in over his head. For a moment, his resolve wavered. Maybe there was some way to help Derek without completely sacrificing his wedding fund. Derek, what if we could find a different solution? What if we could get you into some kind of protection program, or find a way to negotiate with these people? There is no other solution, Derek said firmly. They want their money and they want it now. It's $25,000 or I'm dead. Marcus's father saw the hesitation in his son's eyes and pressed his advantage. See, even you know this is the right thing to do. Stop being stubborn and help your brother. I'm not being stubborn, Marcus said, his resolve hardening again. I'm being responsible. Derek created this situation through his own choices, and bailing him out will only teach him that he can continue making reckless decisions because someone will always rescue him. So you'd rather let him die than risk him not learning a lesson? His mother asked incredulously. I'd rather he learned to make better choices before his reckless behavior kills him. That's when his father completely lost control. In a moment of pure rage and frustration, he raised his hand and slapped Marcus hard across the face. The sound of the slap echoed through the room like a gunshot. Everyone froze, shocked by the sudden violence. Marcus's cheek burned, and he could taste blood where his teeth had cut the inside of his mouth. Elena gasped, stepping back in shock. Derek's eyes widened in disbelief. Marcus's mother covered her mouth with her hands, horrified by what her husband had just done. Marcus stood perfectly still for a long moment, his hand slowly rising to touch his stinging cheek. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "Did you just hit me?" His father seemed to realize what he had done, but instead of apologizing, he doubled down. "Maybe that will knock some sense into you. Your brother's life is more important than your wedding, and if you can't see that, then you're not the son I raised." Marcus looked around the room at his family members, all of whom were staring at him with expressions of shock, embarrassment, and expectation. Nobody spoke up to defend him. Nobody condemned his father's actions. They were all just waiting to see what he would do next. Elena moved to his side, her hand gently touching his arm. "Marcus, let's go," she whispered. Marcus nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving his father's face. "You're right, Dad. I'm not the son you raised. The son you raised would have been a doormat who let his family walk all over him his entire life. The son you raised would have enabled Derek's destructive behavior until it killed him. The son you raised would have sacrificed his own happiness to avoid disappointing people who clearly don't respect him." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But I'm not that person anymore. I'm a man who knows his own worth, who sets healthy boundaries, and who refuses to be manipulated or abused by anyone, including his own family." Marcus turned toward the door, Elena beside him. "When you're ready to apologize for hitting me and to treat me with the respect I deserve, you know where to find me. Until then, don't contact me again." As they walked toward the door, his mother called out desperately, "Marcus, please don't leave like this. We can work this out." Marcus paused at the door, looking back one last time. "Mom, Dad just hit me in the face because I won't give Derek my wedding money. If you think that's acceptable behavior, then we have nothing to work out." He looked at Derek, who was staring at him with a mixture of guilt and desperation. "Derek, I hope you find a way out of this situation. I really do, but it's not going to be through my wedding fund." Finally, he looked at his father, who was standing with his arms crossed, still looking defiant despite the shocked faces around him. "And Dad, if you ever lay a hand on me again, you'll discover that I'm not as forgiving as the son you think you raised." With that, Marcus and Elena walked out of the house, leaving behind a family that had just irreparably damaged their relationship in their desperation to solve Derek's problems. As they drove away, Marcus felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. He was free from his family's manipulation, but he had also lost something precious that he could never get back. The drive home was silent except for the sound of Alina softly crying in the passenger seat. Marcus's cheek was still stinging from the slap, but the emotional pain was far worse than the physical. He couldn't believe his father had actually hit him, and he couldn't believe that nobody in his family had stood up for him. "I'm so sorry, Marcus," Alina finally said, her voice thick with tears. "I'm sorry your family put you through that. I'm sorry they tried to blame me. And I'm sorry your father hit you." Marcus pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face her. "Alina, you have nothing to apologize for. You were incredible back there. You stood by me when my own family was attacking me, and you handled their accusations with more grace than they deserved. I just can't believe they ambushed you like that. And your father hitting you." She trailed off, shaking her head in disbelief. "I can't believe it either," Marcus admitted. "I mean, I knew they were upset, but I never thought it would come to violence. And the fact that nobody else in the room said anything about it tells me everything I need to know about where I stand with them." They sat in the car for a while, processing what had just happened. Marcus felt like he was mourning the loss of his family relationships, even though he knew he had made the right choice. Alina held his hand, offering silent support as he worked through his emotions. "What happens now?" Alina asked eventually. Marcus took a deep breath. "Now we plan our wedding. We use Grandpa's money exactly as he intended, and we start our marriage surrounded by people who actually love and support us." "What about Derek? What if something really does happen to him?" Marcus had been dreading this question, but he had already thought about it extensively. "If something happens to Derek, it will be tragic and I'll grieve for him. But it won't be my fault, and it won't be something I could have prevented by giving him money. Derek's problems are much deeper than money, and until he addresses the root causes of his behavior, he'll keep creating these situations." Alina nodded, though Marcus could see she was still troubled by the thought of Derek potentially being hurt again. "I understand your reasoning, and I support your decision. I just hate that you're in this position." "I hate it too," Marcus agreed. "But I'm not going to let guilt or fear make my decisions for me. We're going to have the wedding we've dreamed of, and we're going to start our marriage with a clear conscience." That night, Marcus and Alina ordered takeout and spent the evening looking through their wedding planning materials. They confirmed details with vendors, finalized their guest list, and talked about their honeymoon plans. It felt good to focus on their future together rather than dwelling on the family drama. But as they were getting ready for bed, Marcus's phone rang. Derek's name appeared on the screen, and after a moment's hesitation, Marcus answered. "Derek, what do you want?" Marcus, I need to tell you something. Derek's voice was quiet, almost defeated. I lied to you. I lied to everyone. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What do you mean you lied? The people I owe money to, they're not going to kill me. They're criminals, yeah, but they're not murderers. The beating I got was real, but it was more of a warning than an attempt on my life. Marcus sat down heavily on the bed, Alina beside him with a concerned expression. So you've been lying about your life being in danger. Not exactly lying, but exaggerating. They want their money, and they'll probably rough me up again if I don't pay, but they're not going to kill me. I was just so desperate to get the money that I made it sound worse than it really is. Marcus felt a surge of anger. So you let our entire family believe that you were going to be murdered if I didn't give you my wedding money. I was scared, Marcus. I panicked. When I saw how much everyone was willing to pressure you, I went along with it because I thought it might actually work. Derek, do you have any idea what you've put me through? What you've put Alina through? Dad hit me tonight because he thought I was letting my brother die. I know, and I'm sorry. I heard about what happened at dinner. Mom called me crying. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. Why are you telling me this now? Because after what Dad did to you, I realized how far this has gone. I never wanted anyone to get hurt, especially not you. You've always been the best big brother I could ask for, and I've been a selfish jerk. Derek, I appreciate you telling me the truth, but this doesn't change anything. You still borrowed money from criminals. You still can't pay it back. And you still need to face the consequences of your actions. I know. I'm going to figure something out. I'll get a job, I'll make payments, I'll do whatever it takes. But I'm not going to let the family tear itself apart over my mistakes anymore. After Derek hung up, Marcus told Alina about the conversation. She was furious that Derek had exaggerated the danger he was in, but also relieved that he wasn't actually facing death.